What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise Live here on a very warm Monday. If you're with us here in the Pacific Northwest, it was a very warm Monday. Me and Eric are on that. Do you have AC, Eric? Do you
I
AC
have a
at that
couple of
place?
portable ones in the rooms, but yeah, I can't have them on during the stream, so I'm already cooking in just a minute
Yep.
from turning it off.
We're on that no air conditioning grind, so that's what we're on right now. So you gotta respect the grind because it's pretty hot in here. But we got a pretty chill, laid back stream for you guys. Might be a little bit shorter than normal. We're gonna discuss coaching candidates, as well as like a little bit about the playoffs, and then we'll touch on Ben Simmons a little bit. But I already recorded a video and I wanted to get it out today. I forgot we were streaming. I was planning on like kind of editing it right now. Recording was a little bit longer. It should be a pretty solid video, I think. That's going to drop tomorrow. That was the big video that I was hinting at on Twitter. If you don't follow me, at Tori Jones YT, Eric is at HoopsJock. The channel is at Blazers Uprise YT. Those are the Twitters. But I teased it. Wanted to get it out today. It's going to come out tomorrow, and then mailbag on Wednesday. If you have a mailbag question, go ask it on the last mailbag. All right. Normally I do prompts in the community tab now, but we're just going to do questions in the last mailbag at this point. So we'll discuss maybe a little bit about Ben Simmons, but I know a lot of people are coming in here just wanting to talk about Ben Simmons, and I don't want to just like basically say everything that I said in the video at this point, so it's kind of put me in a tough spot with this stream. With that being everything everybody wants to talk about and me not wanting to spoil the video, on Thursday we will have a stream, and we can talk a little bit about it then, and we'll also go over some of the things that are happening in our mock off-season, which trades are starting tomorrow. The trade window opens up tomorrow, so everybody's had their teams for a week. Trade window opens tomorrow. Draft lottery, we will be streaming that on the main channel. Sorry, lots of stuff to plug here, but we'll be streaming the draft lottery on the main channel. Eric's not going to be there for that one, but I might be able to get Gabe on right before his Suns take on the Clippers in Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. So we'll be streaming the lottery as well over there on the main channel, and then we'll open up the trade window for our mock off-season. So a lot going on despite it being the off-season for us. Yeah, so I mean, we still got a bit to talk about, even though we might not fully dive in on the Ben Simmons thing. We can talk about other trade candidates, though, if you guys want. Problem is, I'm the Blazers in the mock offseason, so I'm not trying to fully give things away. It's kind of made it a little bit difficult, you know? So, anyway, Eric, how's your day been? What do you want to start with? What are you feeling?
Let's talk about the coaching search.
All right, so Becky, Hammon, and Chauncey Billups are the two presumed final candidates for the Blazers to choose from. There was a report from, do you remember the name of the guy? Who's the report from?
Brian Berger from Sports Business Radio.
Oh, I was talking about the people that said that Jody Allen wants Becky Hammon, essentially.
Yeah, that's Brian Berger from Sports
Business. Okay, is that Brian Berger?
Oh,
it's from Sports Business. Yes. Okay, so he said that Jody Allen wants Becky Hammon. And do you have the full tweet? Do you have the quote?
Yes.
Yes, if you want to read it.
Reliable sources have told me that if Jody Allen has her way, Becky Hammon will be the next head coach of the Portland Trailblazers. Allen would very much like to be a, quote, trailblazer by hiring the first woman head coach in NBA history.
Okay.
As
so
well
let's
as
dive...
NFL, MLB, NHL. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's dive a little bit into that, and then we'll talk about like what Dwight James said and everything. I am cool with Becky Hammon if she's the right coach. If she's not the right coach, we need to hire the right coach. And if it's not her, then we need to not hire her. Pretty simple, right? The way that's put, and I don't know if this is legitimate because the Blazers are pretty tight-lipped, but this is like a source from Jody Allen, not like the Blazers front office, so it's a little bit different. Yeah. So I don't know how much stock to put in it. But it sounds like Jody Allen wants to hire her because she's a woman. And, you know, I mean, that basically the tweet said Jody Allen would love to be a, quote, trailblazer in terms of hiring the first female coach. All right? I am scared that this team is going to hire her because she's a woman, not necessarily because she's the best coaching candidate.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And, of course, I'll give her a chance. And honestly, in terms of candidates, I think she's relatively high up there. I've heard mixed things from different people, some good, some bad, and you'll probably hear that about any candidate. So I talked a little bit about the bad. I'm not going to put too much stock into that. I'll give her a chance. And in terms of her credentials, who she's been an assistant coach under, she's been a pop assistant. And any pop assistant, I'm pretty open-minded to. I've been on the record saying I want Ime Udoka. All right, and he's been a pop assistant in the past, and now he's moved on to Philadelphia, now Brooklyn, but he's been a pop assistant. Anybody that's been a pop assistant, I like. So in terms of like her credentials and everything, I think she'll be able to command respect from the players. I think, she wouldn't necessarily be a bad hire at all. I just don't want this organization to pass on a better coach because the better coach is a male and they want to hire a female. So they need to hire the best coach, regardless of gender. If that's Becky Hammon, awesome. If that's not Becky Hammon, awesome. The whole thing about her being a female doesn't factor into the equation at all for me. Just hire the best coach. It's that simple.
Yeah, I completely agree. Best candidate. The thing is, we don't know. I mean, she could be the best candidate, and that's what I'm not connecting the dots here, because we've talked about this before, how these rumors seem to be made up by people who hate Olshey, right? So here we go again. Here's if Jody gets her way, right? And now once again, we're sitting here talking about, like, it's going to be Jody overriding Olshey, and it won't even be his decision, and like the guy he really wants is Billups. All that kind of stuff. So it's just like, how do we know Olshey isn't leaning towards Becky as well? And then this is not just a case of her being a woman. It's a case of that's who they decided their search on. It just happens to be they can run with that narrative too, that they're a trailblazing organization with hiring the first woman. So if it is because of that, I agree. It needs to be because she won the job, not because, oh, look, she's the best out of the women candidates we interviewed, and I really want to hire a woman or whatever. No problem with a woman being hired. Like, if that's the right person, just got to hire her for the right reason and not some sort of ideal, what you want her to be versus what she interviewed as.
Yeah, I mean, if Jody had overriding power, like these anti-Olshey people want to say, and Jody wanted Becky Hammon for that reason, wouldn't Becky Hammon already be the coach? And
if Olshey had a problem with that, he'd be fired, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once again, if there's this internal struggle going on over this, like, why does he still have a job?
And I hadn't really thought that out yet until you kind of put things that way. That's why I can't put like 100% stock in something like that. It's like, I'm sure Jody would like hiring a woman for those reasons, and I'm not saying she shouldn't. It would, like, I understand the sentiment, like, it would be cool to hire the first female head coach.
Yeah.
But it's more I look at it more in the terms of, it'd be cool if a female was the best head coaching candidate. You know what I mean? That comes along with her being the right hire. You don't just want to give her the job because she's a female. Like, you want her to be the best candidate, which I think for some team at some point in time, she will be the best candidate for them, and it might be us. I'm not sure. So I think she will be a head coach in the NBA, and it'll be cool once that happens. So that's the thing. It's like, there's a difference between thinking that it'd be cool to hire the first female head coach and that is the choice because she would be a female head coach. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I understand the sentiment of it. I understand how it'd be cool. I think it would be cool as well. It'd be awesome. The first female head coach in the four major sports in the country, which is, of course, NHL, MLB, NFL, NBA. Just has to be for the right reasons. And I think most people are kind of on board with that, where they think it would be cool, but they want her to be hired because she's the best candidate, and they want to hire the best candidate.
And it just comes down to me, too, like, what kind of assistants do you hire? Whether it's, with all these first-time head coaches, you have to have a strong assistant, so that might be what they're waiting for as well. But, yeah, it's just, I don't know. People have already determined that if Olshey gets his way, it's going to be Billups, and if it's not Billups, then he got overrode or something. I just don't understand like why it has to come down to that, and why if Jody Ellen does want a female and she wants Becky, she's coming in for a second interview. She's a finalist. Like, why would she just let Olshey hire someone else? Why wouldn't she just bring in a new GM and tell them that they're going to hire Becky? You know, like, that's the thing that doesn't make sense to me, and why like all these people run with these narratives, and it just like
they run with the narratives because it's the narrative they want. It's not a truly objective lens that they're viewing it through.
She has all the power here. She controls everything. Like, yeah, you might say she's not involved, but I don't know if she's interested in becoming a trailblazer and hiring the first woman coach. Like, I don't know if that necessarily. I have a pretty good indication from that she's looking to be the owner for a while. Like, she's not just trying to sell this team as fast as possible or whatever. I mean, maybe that's a little bit of a publicity stunt or whatever, but like everything I've heard from like Jason Quick, who's probably the most locked into the ownership, it's like I feel like she's very results oriented and wants to see results and stuff like that. So I don't know. I just don't take her as a person who's like trying to just pack this up and and be done with this franchise. Like, she's been at most of the games that she's been able to attend when it's non-COVID time or whatever. And then, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's good that she's given her input. I just don't want her input to be just because it's a female.
Yep, 100%. I think there is some truth to, like, Billups is Olshey's guy. Mm-hmm. Billups and Olshey have connections. Like, they've been connected through the NBA in previous years. But
for all we know, Becky could have wowed Olshey too. And
100%. So that's the thing, is like going into this, I think Olshey favored Billups. All right. Dame favors Billups as well, and that's kind of the third person that we do have to factor in is what does Dame want? Because if it comes down to like, man, Becky Hammon and Chauncey Billups, you know, we have them on pretty even ground. I think Dame's the tiebreaker there. Who does Dame want? You know, if you hold two candidates in high regard at pretty much the same level, I think Dame is kind of the tie-breaking voice there. You go with the guy that Dame wants then. Unless you're for sure like, okay, this is the guy we want. Or woman that we want. But acting like it's just Chauncey and it's just Becky Hammon, I mean, there's a ton of coaching openings out there. Billups might go to Boston. Becky Hammon might go somewhere else. We don't know. There are 7 coaching vacancies right now in the league. Most people have the Blazers opening like pretty lowly regarded amongst those openings because you got the questions around Dame, which I think are overblown, but a coaching candidate coming in, you know, is going to be, wow, does Dame want to stay here? They're coming into a position where Olshey's putting a lot of pressure on them, and they essentially have to make a run in the playoffs to be considered a success. You're coming in, and it's just not necessarily the best situation. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think there's more upside to the situation than some people will let on, but I think there's other situations that might be more favorable to a Chauncey Billups or a Becky Hammon. So those two candidates are pretty highly regarded around the league with a lot of different coaching vacancies. So it could be a situation where we aren't able to get either of those. Yeah. We don't know how it's going to play out. So that's the thing. Is like, what if we don't get either of those? That's why they will have multiple finalists. And this is where the Dwight Jaynes tweet that comes in, where these two aren't the only finalists. And Olshey might prefer a quote, like a mystery candidate. I don't think that's exactly what Dwight Jaynes said, but that's basically kind of how it came out.
He said, don't be... I can read it for you. Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead and read that tweet.
And just for the record, there could be a little bit of like gamesmanship in terms of political correctness going on here. Because if they end up hiring like a white male coach, say Mike D'Antoni, they might be playing this a little bit in the media, like, well, Jody wanted a woman and Neil wanted a minority candidate or whatever, and then like they're like, but at the end of the day, like this was our best candidate, and like the other two were great finalists, but we just felt like this person was good. We really wanted to be at the forefront in terms of picking a minority or a woman or whatever, but we just felt like in this coaching search it came down at the end and this was the right person for us. So there might be a little bit of setting it up if they go in a different direction, of at least like the owner was really strong though. She really wanted a woman, so she saves face or looks good after all that. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, and we'll find out. But yeah, I mean, I just don't get how the owner wouldn't get what she wants in this situation. But the Dwight quote is, well, two candidates have been widely known as finalists for the Trailblazers coaching job, obviously Billups and Hammon. NBA sources confirmed they are not the only finalists, and knowing Neil Olshey, there may be a secret candidate out there who will surprise us all by getting the job.
See, that just makes me hope for Ime Udoka, who's still my number one choice for head coach.
This Dwight's, people make fun of him as being the mouthpiece for Olshey or whatever, but yeah.
There's a couple interesting comments in chat that I want to read. Eric Olson says, Rip Hamilton and Chauncey Billups are super close, and he heard from Hamilton, I don't know where Hamilton said this, but apparently from Rip Hamilton, Rip said that Billups is very, very interested in the Portland job. Okay, so take that maybe with a grain of salt, but, if Rip Hamilton said that, I would believe it. And then Definitive One said, if Jody really said that in terms of wanting to hire a female head coach, Definitive One says that Jody did Becky Hammon a real disservice because it opens the door for people to say she only got the job because she's a woman, not because she's the best qualified for the position. And I agree with that as well. And that's an interesting point on all this. So that's why I don't know if Jody would say that. So that's why that report from the burger guy, the hamburger guy, whatever, that's why that report from that guy, I don't know. I'm not putting full stock in it. Okay? I'm not necessarily saying it's wrong. I'm just saying there's things with it that A, don't add up, and then B, I don't know why Jody would say that and open the door for those comments to be made.
Yeah, like Trevor mentions, if she coaches really well, that'll end that narrative real quick. But the flip side also applies to where if Jody hired her because she's a woman and she does a terrible job, like, it'd be really hard to fire her after a year or two, like you have to give, like, it might be a situation where you're stuck with her for a while, even if she's not doing a good job, just because you can't fire a woman,
Yeah, I mean, but it just comes down to, like, you just hire the right candidate, right? Because if you hire the right candidate, it shouldn't be a situation where they're terrible. So that shouldn't be a thing that comes into play if you just hire the right candidate. So if Becky Hammon's the right candidate, I don't think you'd have to worry about that if you know that she's the right candidate, right? So that's the thing. That's why they got to make sure they hire the right person.
Yep.
So it's not a case where it's like, oh, yeah, well, we hired somebody and they're terrible. All right? You should be able, as Neil Olshey, to run a competent enough interview process where you're able to land a head coach who's not going to be terrible the next 2 years. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a high bar to set. That's not a high standard. Like, you should be trying to hire a good NBA coach, and there's a good candidate out there. Maybe it's not Chauncey Billups. Maybe Chauncey Billups would be bad. Maybe Becky Hammon would be bad. But that's what you have the interview process for. And that's where it's like, okay, if you're kind of getting a feel for what these coaches would want to do for the team, and it's not the right things, that's where like another mystery candidate might come into play where that they would be coaching this team in the proper direction and doing the proper things with the team. That's why I don't think this is automatically just Chauncey Billups and Olshey gets his way, or Becky Hammon and Jody Allen gets her way. I don't think it's that simple. Coaching searches are not as simple as a lot of Blazer fans and some Blazers media have made it out to be.
Yeah. Especially when they're interviewing first-time head coaches, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you never know. I mean, you could think you want to hire Chauncey all you want, but if he comes in an interview and says some dumb things or, like, doesn't have an answer or a good answer to some of your questions, then you should absolutely pivot from that. So it seems like a lot of the candidates they've interviewed outside of D'Antoni has been pretty new coaches or ones that don't have a lot of head coaching or would be first-time NBA coaches. So, yeah, like you have to go into those with open mind. One thing I want to mention that Ishfluent brought up is that Dame is fairly close with DeMar DeRozan, and so he could ask his opinion and get some inside information, and then Dame could relay that to the front office as well. Yeah. And don't do what the Pacers did last year and not talk with your players about a coach or get the temperature of that coach around the league and then find out later that he, like a lot of players, hate that guy and don't want to play for him and stuff like that. So yeah, don't do that. But yeah, that's why you got to vet all these coaches. You got to do background. You got to figure out how they are in the locker room, how they are with players, if they are holding them accountable. I mean, all the things Olshey said in that press conference, that was so terrible, right? Like he laid out the groundwork for what he was looking for in a coach, and they better find a candidate that has all those things, because we do need someone who's going to hold the players accountable and who has some defensive acumen and can get the right schemes in there and stuff like that. So I'd be surprised if they just from the beginning it was like, Billups is my guy, and Jody's like, no, I want Becky, and then they're just like, for weeks they've just been arguing back and forth on who's going to get their way. That's so
yeah,
dumb.
and interviewing other candidates just for fun, not because it matters. Like, yeah, I am hoping that it does end up being Ime Udoka. He's still my number one choice at this point, and he hasn't been mentioned at all in regards to the Blazers coaching search. But it would be silly if the Blazers hadn't interviewed him, and if they did, he could be a finalist, and we just don't know it. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I'm hoping Dwight James might be hinting at. I don't know. Ime Udoka is still my number one choice because he played in the league. He was a really good, really smart defensive player when he played. I feel like he'd be a good defensive head coach and be able to kind of teach a guy like Dame, and if we somehow keep CJ, teach a guy like CJ some things on the defensive end that could help them. He was an assistant under Popovich for years, for a while. And he was I believe he was an assistant there when they won the championship in 2014. So he saw what great ball movement can do for a team and won him a championship. They won him a championship.
Wasn't that Becky's first year, too?
Was it Becky's first year? Has she been there that long?
I think she's been there 7 years. So
Yeah,
maybe she started that off season, actually.
Yeah, I think she started that off season. Yeah, so I mean, Ime Udoka is my number one choice because of, in part, who he was as like a defensive player in the NBA. Like, he was a guy that grinded. He was a guy that was a really good defensive player, and I like that. And I think he could be a coach that really knows how to coach both sides of the ball. So Ime Udoka is my number one choice. He's also a Portland guy, so he'd have connection to the community, right? He's from here, so that's my number one choice.
And as Zach pointed out earlier, thank goodness we're not talking about the three candidates that it came out that the Pacers are interviewing today.
Who is that?
Brian Shaw, who's failed at least once in the NBA already with the Nuggets. I forget if he failed another time. Steve Clifford is second, and one Terrence Stotts.
Poor Pacers, man. Clifford, Stotts, or Shaw. I think Stotts is like a shoo-in for that job at this point.
I've heard that.
I mean, Stotts has been able to utilize playmaking bigs a bit, so I wonder if that comes into play there. I don't know. I mean, I always said the Pacers were kind of like the Blazers of the East, just kind of how they were, a consistent playoff team, but never made enough noise in the playoffs. And then this year they were insanely injured and missed the playoffs, and now they're going to possibly hire Terry Stotts. And who's their GM?
Kevin
It's Pritchard or
Pritchard,
Buchanan, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's Pritchard still?
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. He was their GM, and then he got moved up to president of basketball operations or whatever. I think he still makes the personnel decisions, and then
Yeah, and they got a Sabonis on their team. I mean, yeah, that team is Portland of the East. They're gonna be Portland of the East if they hire Stotts for sure. I want to see Stotts get hired somewhere else and just watch how they play. See if Stotts actually coaches. You know what I mean? But that's the problem. If the Pacers hire him and then they're good in the regular season, you're just going to hear, oh, look, it's Terry Stotts doing a great job. In actuality, it's just like they're healthier than they were last season. You know what I mean? In actuality, it will come down to the playoffs and then they'll get crushed. I don't know. But that's the thing. It's a completely different team. He doesn't have a Damian Lillard to fall back on, so he'd have to coach differently. And maybe that would make him a better coach. So that'll be interesting to see if he gets hired there.
or to Dallas. Yeah, and I think it's pretty obvious they made a mistake firing Nate a year ago. That team obviously has had some injury problems. I don't think those were all on Nate, and they've known now for at least 2 years, if not longer, that Sabonis and Turner are not the greatest pairing in the front court, and that they should move off of one of those two. It's probably easier to move off of Turner, and they probably could get a lot for him or could have gotten a lot for him in the past. So.
Yeah, they could still get a lot for him. He's like a top 3 rim protector that can shoot threes. Stretch 5 elite rim protectors are extremely hard to find, and they fit on any team.
Yep.
Like there's no bad fit for a stretch 5 rim protecting center.
Yep. He's had some questionable injury stuff lately, so but that would be the only knock on him, I guess. And I don't know. It's tough to trade a player like that too, so I understand why they've kept him, but they probably need to make a move there.
Yeah, let me just say this. We're not really going to discuss Ben Simmons stuff because of that video, but I'll just say this, since we're talking about Miles Turner. If we trade CJ for Ben Simmons, I want us to trade Nurkic to a third team, get assets back, and use them to get Miles Turner. If we trade for Ben Simmons, I want Miles Turner. You go all in on defense. You get a 4th shooter on the court in Turner who can shoot threes. You need a stretch 5 next to Simmons. That's the only way I would be kind of on board with the Simmons thing. Maybe I'm spoiling too much, but the only way I want Ben Simmons at this point is if he comes with Miles Turner. I'm not going to get into why. That'll be in the video. But...
Or someone on that level.
Yeah, how many elite rim protecting stretch 5s are there? You know what I mean? That are gettable this offseason. The only other one I can think of is Boucher, but he's not as proven. And he's not as good defensively. So, I don't know. That's the thing is Indiana's going to be a very interesting team to watch. So, but that's also why I've always been high on Zach. Because Zach Collins, if he's healthy, is a rim protecting stretch 5 that can switch out and guard 3s and 4s on the perimeter. And he's on a cheap contract and he's pretty young. That's hard to find. Okay, that's hard. That's what Zach is idealistically is very hard to find. That's why it's a shame that he's been hurt the last 2 years. Yep. That's why I think he should be back next year on his qualifying offer, which is about $7 million. And if he doesn't play, if he's hurt again, then you can use that $7 million in trades, hopefully. Now, he would have a no-trade clause, so that get kind of tricky, but could be a salary piece. If not, we're going to be over the cap anyway. So that's why I still think Zach has a chance at a role next year. Anyway, we're going kind of off on a tangent here.
I mean, I'll just say if Zach's healthy, he absolutely will factor in next season if he's on the team still, and will be a key rotational piece. I still believe in Zach, but
yeah. But I mean, hypothetically, like if you have Rocco, Simmons, and Turner, is that the best defensive front court in the league, Eric?
Hard to figure out a team that's better.
Yeah.
Depending on what, I guess some other teams could make moves, but yeah, that's pretty tough to beat.
Yeah. I mean, I think we'd be a borderline top 5 defensive team. I don't know. That's the thing. It's like you could go all in on defense and just see what that looks like and see if Dame can carry the offense to a high enough level. At least it'd be something different, you know? So, I don't know. But I will have thoughts on like just a Simmons trade in general tomorrow. Yeah. We can't touch on that too much.
Can I say my thoughts real quick, just briefly?
Yes.
Or are they too parallel to yours?
They're too parallel. They're probably too parallel to mine.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil that.
Yeah.
That was a video that I'll get out to you guys tomorrow, and then we can talk about it more on Thursday. Mm-hmm. But I know Eric's thoughts and mine are like basically identical. So everything I say in that video is pretty much how you feel. Mm-hmm. But yeah, little teaser animations in chat. Yes, that's what I tweeted out. I'm not gonna spoil too much for the mock off season for the video. You know, we're just kind of stuck in limbo at this very moment. But I will do a couple videos on like my mock off season running the Blazers and like go over like some of the things I tried for after the fact and like what I had to settle for, that type of thing, how I negotiated things. That'll be good content. That'll be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Shervin. Tori and I argued with Shervin from chat for like 4 hours.
He just posted the period. Yeah, it wasn't 4 hours. It was maybe one. We had a good old debate.
Oh no, it's quite a while. I was gonna go to bed and then I popped in chat for a second to talk to you guys, and then I was ended up being up till like 3.
Was it that late? I don't know. Don't air us all out for being up till 3 a.m. We're not.
Who cares?
I do. We're not. I definitely go to bed at like 10 p.m. Every night. So, yeah. Anyway.
And if you're part of the mock-off season, just so trades we're gonna start like right after the lottery concludes, or do you want to like set?
I will announce it on stream. I will announce it on stream, and I'll post a message in Discord. All right, so it'll be after the lottery. Here's the thing: I have to update your team sheets with the picks. Mm-hmm. So I will likely do that on stream. Like I will likely have the sheets like ready to go to edit while the lottery is happening. That is the plan. So once I have the sheets updated with your picks, the thing is like future picks depend on the lottery too. So I'll have to sort that out as well, because you got in a Minnesota pick that, depending on the lottery, will go to Golden State or stay with Minnesota. You got a Chicago pick that, depending on the lottery, will stay with Chicago or go to Orlando. That was the Vucevic trade. You have a Houston Rockets pick, which is top 4 protected. They have the number 1 odds, or no, they're tied with 3 teams for the number 1 odds. They have a 52% chance of the top 4. They have a 48% chance of being 5th or lower. No, they'd have to be 5th because they couldn't be lower than 5th. So they have a 48% chance of being 5th, a 52% chance of being top 4. If it's 5th, it goes to OKC. If it's top 4, it stays with Houston. So Houston might lose their first round pick. The thing is like all those picks are protected. So like if they stay with their team, then that team will owe like a future pick. So I gotta sort all that out before we can start. So I will try and do that right after the lottery. I'll just chill on stream and whatever. I'm still trying to get Gabe on there, and Gabe's a good talker, so I know Gabe can just tell a story about some sort of movie, and I don't know. Gabe will be able to entertain, but Gabe also has to do his play-by-play stream. What time does that game start tomorrow? The Suns game.
I'm looking it up right now.
6 p.m. I think.
Yep, 6.
So yeah, trade window should open like right before 6. That's kind of the goal. Yeah. Anyway, so what else we got to talk about? What else did we have on tap?
Go Pistons in the lottery.
Yeah, Eric's rooting for the Pistons because he's the Pistons. I mean, here's the thing. For real life purposes, like, this matters too. You know what I mean? We'll get caught up, like, people will get caught up rooting for their teams to get good picks and whatnot. But, like,
that makes it doubly.
I want Minnesota to be top 3. I absolutely do not want the Warriors to have 2 picks in this year's lottery in a loaded draft. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Like if they got 4th and what is it, 15th or 14th? I mean, 4th and 14th.
Yeah, because that pick's only top 3 protected. So, yeah. I mean, I'm going to sim a lottery on tankathon.com. Oh, look, Eric, you're lucky. I just simulated the draft lottery. Detroit moves up 1 spot to number 1. Because you had the number 1 pick last year in the mock-off season. What'd you say? You
always have good luck for me, Tori.
Yep. The second team is in Indiana moving up 11 spots from 13th to 2. Orlando 3rd, Toronto 4th. And then 5th would be OKC getting their pick from Houston. This would be a very good lottery because you got 4 Eastern Conference teams in the top 4. And then OKC 5th getting Houston's pick, which would be funny. And then OKC 6th, so they get 5th and 6th picks. That would be interesting if they had back-to-back picks at 5 and 6, especially since, like, there's a drop-off from 4 to 5. So would they use those 2 picks to get up into the top 4? That'd be interesting. Cleveland 7th, Golden State 8th. They get that pick from Minnesota. I guess if it was the 8th pick, it wouldn't be too bad if Golden State got it. Like, I want Minnesota to either fall or I want them to get to top 3. Because I don't want Golden State to have, like, the 6th or 7th pick. And I think right now it's, like, Minnesota has the 6 best odds. And then Chicago with that pick they traded for Vucevic, and that backfired this year. Orlando would be 9th. So they'd have the 3rd and 9th picks just based on the lottery I just simulated. If you want to simulate a draft lottery, go to tankathon.com. Sacramento 10th, New Orleans 11th, Charlotte 12th, San Antonio 13th, Golden State 14th. That's the lottery I just simulated.
The one I do not like at all.
What was it?
New Orleans moved up to 1. San Antonio 2. Toronto moved up to 3.
How'd you get New Orleans 1 and San Antonio 2?
I don't
New Orleans
know.
has the 10th best odds.
9 and 10 spots, respectively.
Yeah, see, that's gross.
And then Toronto moved up 4 spots. I moved down to 6th. Houston moved down to 5th, so their pick conveyed to OKC. Oklahoma City moved down, so they had 5th and 8th. Yeah, it's weird. Orlando ended up with 7th and 10th. Yeah, this will
be an interesting lottery. Like, OKC could have the 5th pick, 6th pick, 16th pick, and 18th pick. I think Alvaro's OKC. I was surprised that, like, a couple people passed on OKC when we were picking teams for our mock off season, and I was surprised because you could have a lot of fun toying around with all the future picks they have, and then if they have 5th, 6th, 16th, and 18th.
Unlike last year, there was a lot more people who wanted to be good teams versus, like, crap teams that you could just, like, trade everyone, you know?
Yeah, I think everybody's... I think we're going to have a more realistic mock off season. One, because we're not going to let, like, Joel Embiid get traded randomly for Kyrie Irving. B, pretty confident in the pool of GMs we have. So yeah, we'll be covering, like, all the moves that are made. If you want to follow a Twitter account, we're tweeting out everything that happens in our mock off season from a mock Woj account. The handle is literally Wojmock. 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 Alien Wojnarowski. We have mock in the title. We're not trying to trick anybody. So if anybody's seen that and thinks we're trying to trick people, we're not. That's our mock off season. So all the rumors that have been tweeted out there are, like, rumors that GMs of their teams have given us. So it'll be fun. We can take questions from chat for a little bit if you want, if you don't have anything else to...
Yeah, Kayla was asking about the Kemba Walker Al Horford trade. What you thought of
that? Overpay from Boston. What's funny is I had, like, a 4-team trade idea where we got Al Horford and Kemba went to OKC and OKC got a pick. But, like, the pick wasn't coming from Boston. And that was like a bigger Jaylen Brown deal. It was in my Trade Talk Tuesday CJ McCollum trade ideas video. So it's kind of funny that it happened. I mean, I'm on a little bit of a roll in terms of calling trades. Because I called the Norman Powell one, and I don't know. I guess I kind of called the Al Horford Kemba swap, but I mean, you're saving some money, but you're downgrading talent wise, in my opinion. You're getting older. You're only saving $8 million this year, $8 million the next year. Are you going to be able to do anything with those savings? I'm not sure. And then Al Horford in his third season is a partial guarantee, which means if they waive him, they only owe him $14 million. If they keep him, I think they owe him like $29, $30 million, something like that. So they'll be able to waive him and only owe him $14 million, and they can stretch that out over 3 years and owe him like a little under $5 million in terms of dead money for 3 years. So that could save them for that third year of that contract. That could save them potentially $30 million, I guess. And then the next 2 seasons, they would have $5 million in dead money on the cap. So it's basically just a salary thing. I don't know. Like, this trade, it depends on what Boston does with the money they saved. Does that make sense? Is that what you think, Eric? Is that kind of how you're at, where you're at with that trade?
Actually, Al Horford was, in the time he did play for OKC last year, he did play decently. I feel like it's pretty apparent who Brad Stevens thought was the problem last year. Yeah, I don't know. I think Kemba's still a decent player. He's just that price tag is outrageous.
Yeah, I mean, last year he averaged 32 minutes per game, 19 points per game, 5 assists, shot 42% from the field, 36% from three. True shooting percentage was 56%. So, like, average efficiency. But that's on, like, a high shot volume. Like, he's a shot maker. Struggled with injuries. Like, I'm not going to sit here and... Like, Al Horford was underrated for OKC. Like, he's still a good player. But I'm not going to, like, put him above Kemba. And you're giving up the 16th pick, Eric, in a loaded draft. Like, if this was a weak draft... Fine. But here's the thing. Like, we thought last year was a weak draft. Last year is looking like a very strong draft. Maybe not in terms of, like, top-level players, you know, number one and number 2 players from the draft class, but in terms of, like, depth. I mean, Tyrese Maxey gets drafted 20. I don't think, you know, if they had Tyrese Maxey, I don't think they're attaching him to this trade. If they had Sadiq Bey, I don't think they're attaching him to this trade. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they would have attached Nesmith to this trade.
Well, they obviously didn't.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So it's like now you got the 16th pick in a loaded draft and you throw it into this trade. It's a bit of an overpay. So that's why it's like they have to make good moves with the money they save. They have to turn it into something productive down the line because just this in a vacuum is an L for Boston for me. The only way it's going to turn into a good deal is if it opens up moves down the line, which are good.
The only thing I'll say to that is there were not going to be many teams that would have been willing to take on Kemba's contract. So maybe a Dallas could have thought they could pair him with a Luka and be okay there or something.
Yeah, but many teams were going to take Al Horford's contract. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it is quite significantly less than... I don't know. It's just...
But that's my point. Like, if they don't turn that into anything, then it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, the Celtics have also had... I mean, they have like 10 mid-range first-round picks on their roster right now. But yeah, I don't like giving up value. But yeah, Alex is asking if OKC is going to try to move up. Yeah, absolutely. They're gonna try to pack it. They could attach, like, seriously, if they want to move up from like 16 and 18 to like have another top 10 pick, they can. When you have that many picks, you can overpay to get what you want. So if there's a guy like, say, just a random guy like Scotty Barnes at 8 or something, they want to have him. They can give up 5 firsts for him, and it doesn't really even matter really because they still have a ton of extra capital in the future. So I expect them to be major movers up and down the draft board because you can't draft 18 players in like 3 years either. So
yeah, I mean, Eric, I'm looking at this Tankathon mock draft. 16th, 17th, and 18th, they have Garuba, Kai Jones, Zaire Williams. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's some serious talent for the middle part of the draft. That's not like a Romeo Langford from 2 years ago, in my opinion. Romeo Langford in this draft is going in the 20s at best. He might even be going in the 30s. This draft is legitimate. So, yeah, I don't know. I just don't like that they gave up the 16th pick. If it was like a future first, lotto protected, like, cool, then I'm a little higher on this deal for them. It's just, you're going to have a guy, like, go 16th or lower that ends up being an all-star in this draft. So, who it is, I don't know, but Boston is basically giving up the chance to, like, draft that guy because they want to save $8 million the next 2 years and get Al Horford instead of Kemba Walker. I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of it. So if they're able to turn it into something productive down the line, then sure. But
isn't it? I think next year they save like over $20 million, isn't it?
Next year, how?
Because Al Horford's non-guaranteed for like $14 million, and
no, but Al
Kemba's
Horford's
making
still
like $37 million.
Oh, is that next year? Yeah, they have. Well, that's not. Well, they both have 2 years, like next year and then the year after.
Yeah, I'm talking about not this season, next year, like a year.
Yeah, or that's what I meant. I think I was saying 3 years down the line. I meant like 2 years down the line because I was still counting this year.
So next year, like $8 or $9 million this year, and then they also pick up a trade exception in that trade, and then they.
I mean, they already have like 1 million trade exceptions. I don't know if they're even going to use that.
No, they used most of their big one on Evan Fournier.
Yeah, they still have $11 million from Hayward. They still have like a $6 million one. They still have a $5 million one, if I recall correctly. And then the Kemba Walker one gives them a $7 million one. Like, I don't know if they're going to need that. I mean, that's 4 trade exceptions from $5 million to $11 million. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, that's a good asset to have. I'm not sure they're going to use it. But that's entirely my point. Like, I don't have a grade on this yet because it depends on what they do down the line with the savings they got. Because, like, if they save, like, $30 million and then they have some cap space and they're not able to get anybody and then they sign a mediocre role player, then this is a bad grade from this trade. Because what did they do with the money? They saved nothing.
Yeah.
If they use that money to sign a star, then this is a good trade. Like, that's the thing. That's why it's just dependent on that. And if it turns out that they need this traded player exception to make something work, then that'll, raise the grade. So it's an incomplete grade, I think. That's kind of how I'm looking at it.
I'm just saying, you said, well, actually, so 2 years, not this season, but next season, or I know we're still kind of technically in this season, but the 2022-2023 season, they are going to save over $23 million by this trade.
And if they stretch Horford, could be about $32 million.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah. They got to do something with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we had $5 million of cap space in 2016. We got Evan Turner on a horrible contract and a guy who never played for us. I mean, it's obviously that was 2016 was just an outlier year with the cap spiking like $20+ million. But it just depends on what they do with it. And that's the thing. It's like you don't know how Brad Stevens is going to be as a GM. So is he going to be able to make the right moves with the capital that he gained, with the potential cap space he gained? Is he going to be able to sign the right players? I don't know. Like, that's the thing. That's another factor of that. So, interesting trade. Incomplete grade from them. For OKC, it's a win.
Yeah.
100%.
They don't care. They'll probably try to rehab Kemba or possibly even flip him to Dallas this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, like, Kemba and Shai is an interesting backcourt, but, like, they're not trying to win. But you get another asset in this draft which could help them trade up. That's the thing. You might be able to, if they have the 5th and 6th picks, they might be able to trade into the top 4 using 5, 16, and 18. Instead of having to use, like, if they only had 18 and not 16 that they got from this Kemba trade, 5 and 18 might not have gotten into the top 4. But you throw the 16th pick in there, might work. if they didn't have the 16th pick and 5 and 18 wasn't enough, then you'd have to do 5 and 6 if you really like the guy in the top 4. So that's the thing, is like it allows them to maneuver to spots they want in this draft a little bit better to get the players they really want. So, and that's a W, because they're not going to use the money that they lost. Mm-hmm. They're not going to use the cap space that they lost.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to sign anybody. They're going to be trash. So take on money, get picks for it. It's the smart way to rebuild. It's the obvious way to go about a rebuild at this point in the NBA. It's the smart way.
It's literally 2K stuff going on there. Yeah. That's all I do in my GM is trade all my good players for picks and then try to have like every draft pick come like in a future draft, you know. Like,
see, 2K doesn't value draft picks properly.
Yeah,
they're like Billy King with it, you know. So
yeah.
But yeah, we'll take a
but
couple
then you
more
just
questions.
like sign the best free agents just to trade them later, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean 2K's just broken. Somebody asked what I'd grade the Rocco trade.
Oh yeah, that's the exact question I was. It was Rose Era 0.
Still a B. A B.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe you couldn't get back as much trade value for him now as you could, as you gave up for him. But I mean, he's the right type of player we need, right? We need defense. We need the elite 3-and-D guy. He is an elite 3-and-D guy. I mean, that's the type of guy we needed. You know, it's trading draft picks to go for it. Sure, it'd be nice to have the 23rd pick in this year's draft. I mean, but that's once you get into the 20s, you got a lot of good long-term prospects. And you got some guys that can be solid role players right away, in my opinion, but have not necessarily the highest ceiling. I mean, you traded the pick and another pick for an elite role player. So, I mean, you don't really have time to wait on Dame. So, I still grade it a B. I still think it was a good trade. It's not a home run, so that's why it's not an A, but it's a B.
Yeah, so at the time of the Rocco trade, I was a little disappointed that we gave up 2 firsts. Draft came around, Sadiq Bey still on the board. I was even more disappointed. It turns out we gave up the 23rd pick this year. So we gave up the 16th last year, 23rd this year. Yeah, if you granted me hindsight, I'd probably go back and do that, even knowing how I felt about the draft and this draft and stuff. If you would have told me it was the 16th and 23rd picks and basically an expiring Ariza who we weren't going to really play anyway, yeah, I'd probably still do the trade. So, yeah, I have to give it a positive grade, maybe like a B minus. Yeah. But Rocco, I mean, what did he finish shooting this year?
I think it was 39%. I can pull it up right here. I'm already on basketballreference.com. 38% from the 3.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd have told me Rocco would have shot 38% from 3, there's no way.
It was a career high.
That should have equated to us having a worse defense than 2 years ago. That makes no sense. Yeah. I mean, I wish we could have made other changes, primarily to our coach, before this season happened. But, yeah, I would still do the Rocco trade because when you have the offensive firepower we have, having a guy who shoots 38% from 3, so he's not a liability on that end. But on the other end, he should be, part of a good defensive scheme. That should absolutely be a winning trade. And the fact that we didn't give up a lottery pick or anything to do it, I think that's good. And now that trade has been officially completed, we have all our future picks back too. So once the draft happens, we can trade any of our future firsts again.
Yep. So Romp is in here. Romp is a Sixers fan with a channel. If you want to check out his channel, just search Romp 2.0. He just dropped a Ben Simmons trade ideas video as a Sixers fan. It was a pretty good video. Enjoyed it.
Sorry about last night, Romp.
Yeah, we feel your pain. Trust me. So Romp, for a Ben Simmons for CJ McCollum swap, what filler are you asking for us to give up, maybe in terms of picks or additional players for Ben Simmons, just hypothetically? Or would you be willing to swap Ben Simmons for CJ straight up? I'm curious to see his answer. Kind of put him on the spot, but
we talked to Romp after a stream one night, and he struggled a little bit with how to value some of the Sixers players, which is tough. Like Ben Simmons should still have some value, but yeah.
You mean struggled in terms of like not knowing
like what a fair trade is, or like so.
Yeah.
But I know he likes CJ.
It's hard to value your own players, man.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of people are biased, so then you try not to be biased, and sometimes it swings the other way where you're undervaluing them. And here's the thing: whatever you're trading is as valuable as the other team deems it to be.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you might think, oh, he's not that good of a trade target, but if another team really wants him, then he's valuable. So, yeah, I mean, that I'm just kind of curious as to like what would have to be the deal there. So, I don't know. Maybe Romp already dipped, but yeah, we feel your pain, man.
He did post a video today where it was just a straight up.
Yeah.
CJ
he said he'd be willing for a swap. See, if it's a straight up swap, I mean, I would hold out for targets that are better fits that maybe don't present as many issues as a Ben Simmons does. Or I'd see about 3-team trades.
Yep. I'm all for trading CJ. If we can get someone the level of Ben Simmons' perceived value by some people versus CJ's value, I'm all for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I would, before accepting just a straight up trade, I would exhaust about 10 options for 3-team deals before settling on having Simmons come to Portland.
Yep, 100%.
And I know you'll tune in for Tori's video tomorrow for more in-depth on that.
Yeah. I mean, you guys probably already know what I'm about to say. But, yeah, so I will be dropping a Ben Simmons video tomorrow. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, CJ is perfect for the Sixers. I'll talk about that in that video. I think CJ is, like, the type of guy they need. And they could go out and maybe get another, depending on what the 3 teams in a 3-team trade might be, maybe they add another shot creator on the perimeter. They need shot creation on the perimeter. You need shot creation from the perimeter in today's NBA. Like, Milwaukee is kind of a weird team, but, like, Giannis can create his own shot from the perimeter. He's not a good 3-point shooter, but at least he will take them. And he's not efficient on them, but I feel like he makes it enough where it's not like the worst thing in the world that he'll take them. You know, but he's also just able to attack from the perimeter much better than like a Ben Simmons is. And you do have Drew Holiday there to attack from the perimeter. You do have Chris Middleton. The thing is, like, in terms of like creation from the perimeter, Milwaukee is an elite. And you've seen them struggle. Like last year against Miami. I mean, they got shut down because of that. And this year, if they got shut down again, they were likely going to trade for some perimeter creation. But they're a phenomenal defensive team. They were able to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's just like you look at Atlanta, they got Trae Young. You know, you look at Phoenix, they got Devin Booker and Chris Paul. You look at the Clippers, they got Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. You got to have players that are good at creating their own shot as well as offense for others from the perimeter in today's NBA. Because it's hard to guard. And the rules kind of allow those types of players to get what they want if those types of players are playing well. So if you're Philadelphia, that's where they fell short. They didn't have enough shot creation on the perimeter. Ben Simmons didn't want to touch the ball. Embiid is a center. I mean, Tobias Harris is, like, he's solid and he can create from the perimeter, but he's not like, I wouldn't put him up on like a CJ level in terms of that regard.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing, is like their top 3 players, none of them you can really trust to create offense from the perimeter like consistently on a high enough level. Not saying Tobias is bad at that. He's just not good enough. Seth Curry's more of a shooter. George Hill is more of a role player. Like, you just don't have that guy. So that's why I think CJ works for them, because CJ could be that guy for them. And they have enough defensive players around him to not really take much of a hit there with CJ's defense. So,
yep. I don't know if this spoils anything from your video, but Nayland was asking, why not trade for Simmons and kind of rehabilitate his value and then ship him off at the trade deadline? My answer to that is here's what would happen if Portland traded for Simmons. He's going to average like 15, 8 and 8 or something, right? Mm-hmm. He's going to play well. It's going to look like he's fine, right? And that we made a good trade. But how do you know when the playoffs come around that he won't just go right back to being like, oh crap, this is the playoffs, the game's on the line, I don't want to touch the ball, like get it out of my hands, like don't foul me, I don't want to shoot free throws. Like that would scare me the entire season. Like we talked about all season for multiple years now, how our style of play will not work in the playoffs. Well, in my opinion, Simmons' style of play is tough to work in the playoffs because he relies on transition baskets. He relies on being able to get a rebound and attack and create mismatches with his size and dribbling and playmaking ability. But if he's not a player who can do those things in the second half of playoff games, then that how do you know these problems won't still exist? Because he's been fine in the regular season his whole career. It's just when it comes down to like pressure situations, like I wouldn't trust him. So the problem is, how do you know whether or not that's actually working as a team, or if it's just creating a situation where once again we're setting ourselves up to be good regular season team and fail miserably in the playoffs?
Yeah, because if he doesn't improve from this playoff performance in his next postseason, his value is just going to go lower. It's not going to go higher. It's going to go lower. He has to show improvement from this. Like, there are some teams that are probably out there looking at this year's playoffs as a little bit of an outlier. Like, oh, he's not that bad. He's not that, scared of the moment in the playoffs. He just was in a free throw shooting slump that it kind of got to his head, but, like, we can rehabilitate that, yada, yada, right? But if it happens again, there's going to be far fewer teams that view Ben Simmons in that lens. It's going to look more like, okay, this is just who he absolutely is in the playoffs. So there is a very legitimate chance that Ben Simmons' trade value in the offseason next year is lower than it even is now. People are acting like, oh, this is the lowest his trade value is ever going to get. It's rock bottom. I don't think you can say that with confidence. Sure, maybe next year's playoffs, maybe he figures some things out. Maybe he gets better at free throws. Maybe he does better. That's a possibility. But it's a major gamble. And still, I don't know. I don't think the upside is as high as some people are acting like. And then if he has a repeat performance, you might not even get a CJ player back. So everybody that says, oh, why don't we just trade him, rehabilitate his trade value? Then if it doesn't work out, we can trade him in the offseason next year. Well, if it doesn't work out, we're not going to be able to get much back for him. So it's a tricky situation.
And Shaggy Squid said, trust in Dame's leadership. Dame can get Ben's regular season play to carry over to the playoffs.
Can I just say one name, Eric?
Yes.
Myers Leonard. Dame couldn't fix Myers Leonard mentally. I mean, why do people think Dame is a shrink, Eric? He's a good leader, but like Dame ain't going to be able to fix that man's jump shot like some people are saying, or fix that man's mentality.
Here's the situation. And like, I don't know, Tori, game's on the line, 5 seconds left, you're rec league. Do you want the ball in those situations? Or, no. Huh?
Just kidding. Yes.
I didn't know the answer to that question, but it would have surprised me if he really did say no. Because you're a confident guy, you're a cocky guy when you're on the court, right? Like, I'm clutch. You want the ball in those situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Me, like, I'll take a shot. Like, I'm not scared to shoot, but I also like don't mind like facilitating for someone else, kind of like LeBron-ish, in those situations where like I'm not comparing myself to LeBron.
You said I was confident.
I'm saying, like, if I have an open guy, I'm a teammate, I have no problem passing to that guy and letting him shoot the ball. Whereas like I'm not like, oh, I have to take that shot or whatever.
Yeah.
But okay, Dame's leadership, like Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, they bring in crazy ass Dennis Rodman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they, you can't like contain that guy, but like you do your best to like get him focused and keep his attention on the season as much as possible. You let him just disappear for a weekend in Vegas in the middle of the playoffs or whatever. Like you have to do stuff to like fix that. So like craziness or like bad attitude guys, totally agree that Dame could maybe like get in that guy's head and be like, look, man, if you come to this team, I need you to be dependable and I need you to do this, right? That's totally what a leader does. A leader cannot fix mental confidence issues, though, in a player, other than just being like, I believe in you, I believe in you. But if he doesn't believe or he doesn't want to take that shot, he cannot fake that. When it comes to that moment, when he gets the ball in the clutch, whether Dame has told him 8 million times or he's like the most confident person ever and has fooled himself to believe in himself that he is fine and can do this, and next time he's in that situation, he is not going to bow down. He is going to step up and take that challenge. When it comes to that moment and you're in that situation, your true colors always come out. So if you are not that type of person who can handle that, and I don't believe Ben Simmons is, I feel like there is no way anyone can teach him to be confident in that situation, to not take a freaking layup when you're wide open and pass the ball on baseline. Like, that's just a mental thing that no one can correct for someone else. Now, he can do it to where if I pass you the ball, dude, I'm passing it to you because I want you to shoot it, so you better freaking shoot the ball and have confidence doing it. Like, but that's the most he can do. And, I mean, he might unlock a little bit of that, but you are who you are when it comes to like whether you have that it factor in the clutch or not. And Dame has that. Lots of people have that. Chauncey, if he's our coach, had that. So it'll be frustrating as heck for a guy like Billups if he came here as our coach to play and coach a guy
Mr.
who
Big Shot
to try and coach a guy who is just like doesn't want to touch the ball in those situations and wants to avoid anything to do with the basketball in the fourth quarter of games. So like I don't know how to make that work. I mean, yeah, you can put that responsibility on Dame and he could do all he can to fix that. But once you get into like the Western Conference Finals or something and we need Ben Simmons to hit 2 free throws and the other team calls a timeout to ice him, like there's no way like all those mental weak aspects of his game won't just come flooding back in that situation. And yeah, I mean, I would probably wilt under the pressure too. Like I don't know if I could handle. I know Torrey's notorious for saying that like playing in front of 20,000 people and shooting free throws wouldn't face him at all because he's a good free throw shooter. But like that absolutely would get into my head, I think. And some people are just like that.
Yeah, I mean, the other narrative I've heard is, oh, Dame will help him fix his shot. Ben Simmons shoots with the wrong hand. Ben Simmons is a right-hander who finishes almost everything right-handed. In college, I saw this graph. They kept track of non-jump shots and what hand Ben Simmons shot them with in college, Eric. 81% of his non-jumpers in college he shot with his right hand. I think it was like 16% he shot with both hands, and only 3% he shot with his left hand. He writes right-handed, he bowls right-handed, like he finishes right-handed, he shoots his jumper lefty, and it looks like somebody shooting with their offhand. He's a righty.
What would you say about it if he switched hands? If he actually did go
he
through
has
with it.
to, because at this point, he is never going to be a shooter. So you might as well. It might easily be too late, but at this point, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? He needs to start shooting with his right. He needs to shoot like 2,000 jumpers a day this offseason with his right hand. He needs to hire a shooting coach and rebuild his entire form with his right hand. That's the only chance I ever see him of becoming a guy, of becoming a shooter that's as good as Derrick Jones Jr. shooting the ball. We're not even talking good. We're just talking about a guy like a Derrick Jones Jr. shooting the ball. That's the only way he's ever going to even get to that level where he's just simply below average.
So, Rump brings up the fact that he's had Brett Brown and now Doc Rivers as his 2 coaches in the NBA. There may be a little bit to that. However, if you want to fix your shot, the way to do it is with work ethic and in the off season and putting in that work every day in the off season. And the fact that he hasn't done it so far in he's 5 years in the NBA, 6 years in the NBA.
Are you sure he hasn't? Because if you're shooting with his offhand, I mean, you can put in all the work in the world and you're probably not going to become a good shooter.
Well, you should have experimented with your other hand then, if that's the case. But to me, it's like it kind of goes back to the Aaron Gordon thing for me. It's like, oh, he could be a good shooter if he wanted to or whatever. It's like, well, why doesn't he then? It's like, yeah, just I don't know. It seems like a lot of players don't put in the necessary work to correct that. Like, Kendall Marshall is a guy who's always brought up from Dame's draft who was like this brilliant playmaker passer, but couldn't shoot for crap. And if that guy would have just gone in a gym and fixed his jump shot and became even a decent shooter, that guy could have still been in the NBA and had a nice career. But like he just never could shoot. And like Tim Frazier is a guy who's bounced around the league for us. Like that's a guy who's never really been able to fix his jump shooting issues, and that's cost him from being a solid rotational backup point guard if he could shoot the ball, you know?
Yeah. Can I throw out a name?
Yeah.
Dante Exum.
Yep, that's another good one.
So, I mean, there's a number of guys like that.
Yep. So, I don't know. It's just, to me, it seems like, maybe they're not, they could work on, I mean, they could be putting 20 hours a day of work in, but maybe they're not working on the right thing or focusing on it the right way or whatever. So, yeah.
Do you think that he's shooting with his offhand, Eric?
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to see him shoot with his right hand, but he definitely, I mean, did you see the picture today that was floating around from one of the All-Star games where, like, he's shooting a free throw and like LeBron and Luka and a bunch of people are behind him all like pointing and laughing at him. Like, no. And his shot just, it's like, it's terrible. It's so bad. Like, I don't know why you keep shooting that way when the mechanics are just so off. Like,
I'm just entirely convinced that he's shooting with his wrong hand.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. If you're left-hand dominant or ambidextrous in college, why would you finish 81% of your non-jumpers with your right hand and only 3% with your left? Like, here's the thing, Eric. What's funny is, I think this was like Mike Korzemba said this in a video like a couple months ago that I watched last night. He said, if Ben Simmons wasn't a left-handed player, a knock on him coming into the draft would be that he wasn't good enough with his left hand around the rim. What type of player have you ever heard that they're not good enough finishing around the rim with their dominant hand? I mean,
it's so weird.
Yeah, and he even said, like, as a kid, his dad made him shoot left-handed, basically. And he's even said before he feels like he was supposed to be a right-hander. And you see him autographing it's with his right hand. He bowls with his right hand. Like, the dude's a right-hander. And he's probably, like, good with his left for a right-hander, but the dude's a right-hander. Like, I'm curious. I'm just so curious. Like, what if he just shot with his right? The dude could be LeBron right now, for all we know, and have all the confidence in the world because he's shooting with his dominant hand. I don't know. And Rob says Philly media was having this conversation 5 years ago. Yeah, I mean, it's been a conversation since he came into the league. And look at him. He still can't shoot. So
I mean, I'm sick of hearing that, oh, this offseason he's going to fix his jumper. He's going to work on it. I'm sure Romp, as a Philly fan, is just like,
yeah, I don't want to
cringes every time he hears that stupid narrative and like sees a workout video of him hitting like 3 jumpers in a row and everyone's like, oh my god, he's shooting threes now. He's so good.
Bro, I would trust myself as a shooter in the NBA more than I'd trust him at this point. Like, he's so, like, he's his jumper's so broken. I mean, Eric, I don't know if this is cocky, but I think I could shoot better than 34% from the free throw line. You put me in the middle of an NBA playoff game, yeah, I'd be pretty nervous. You know what I mean? In the NBA playoff game. And having like rarely play, I still think I could make more than 34%. I was 85% in high school, 83% in college. I barely shot free throws in college though. Yeah, I think I could shoot better than 34%. Like, how is it even possible to try and make free throws and only shoot 34%? Like, how's that even possible? Like, I don't I don't know the last time I could only make 3 out of 10 free throws when I was trying to make free throws. Unless it was with my offhand. Interesting. So, yeah, I don't want to be raging like, Ben, shoot with your right hand all year long for 3 years, like 4 years, and then we trade him. Like, I don't want that.
Worst case scenario with Ben, like if he did switch hands, like then you're possibly like could shoot with either hand. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because you've been practicing with your left hand for years, so like it could naturally come back to left-handed shooting, but you could also shoot with your right, like free throws or like when you're taking a set jump shot or catch and shoot. Like, so like, yeah, like there hasn't been too many players that could shoot from up to like 15 feet or something with either hand. So like, I don't know.
He can't shoot with his left, like even for 15 feet. Like he still can't
it's like,
shoot well enough.
I don't know. Like, why not like try it with both or like work on both and just become like a crazy player where you never know which hand you're gonna shoot from or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I just want him working on his right hand. I don't even want him thinking about shooting jumpers left-handed. Like, I want everything he's done in terms of shooting jumpers with his left hand erased from his memory, Eric. Erased. Put the basketball in his right hand. Have him shoot right-handed jumpers. Like, that's the only solution. That's the only way he'll ever be serviceable. Like, that's the only way. In my opinion, so.
Shervin's still trying to argue things we never said.
Shervin, just we already out-argued you last night. I mean, we're kind of over it at this point.
He was back saying that CJ got blown by in like the Denver series stuff like so many times again today. Like he refused to believe the.
So last night we were talking to Shervins in VC, and he's like, "Bro, CJ just got blown by like crazy. Go watch Game 6, Monte Morris in Game 6. Watched it. I don't think there was one. Oh, wait, no, Game 5, Monte Morris. Watched Game 5. There was like one play where it was CJ's fault. Like one singular play. And then, no, wait, Austin Rivers Game 3. And there was like one play where it was CJ's fault. For like all those buckets that Austin Rivers hit. It's like, it was funny, man. It's like, dude, find the clips, find the proof. And he couldn't find it. So I'm surprised he's back in here saying, CJ got blown by all the time. I mean, we watched the 3 videos you told us to watch in terms of CJ getting blown by. It wasn't there. Like, people are blaming CJ way too much. It's like CJ will be the help side defender, so he'll help. The ball will get kicked out to his man. Norman Powell should be getting the first pass out, and Norman Powell won't rotate out. And then Monte Morris will hit a 3, and people will blame CJ because it's, quote, CJ's man. But CJ is doing what he should as a help side defender, and Norman Powell isn't doing what he should do, which is get the first pass out. It's stuff like that people don't know how to see. Like, people don't see what the rotations are supposed to be, what the help side responsibilities are supposed to be. They just see CJ was guarding Monte Morris. Monte Morris made a 3, so it's CJ's fault. That's how a lot of people think. So a lot of people were roasting CJ, but it wasn't even necessarily CJ's fault. Or like CJ would have a great contest, almost block the shot, and the guy would still make it, and then people would blame CJ because CJ got scored on. But it's like he'll have a great shot contest, like, after providing help onto Jokic when Covington was guarding him. Like, I don't know. The whole CJ terrible defense in the playoffs, like, there was, like, numerous times I saw him go under screens, but, like, other people guarding Monte Morris were going under screens. Like, that was, like, the game plan. Or they'd randomly switch. Like, the pick-and-roll schemes defensively were terrible. The thing is, we've all known that for years. And Shervins has known that. So, I don't get it, man. I don't get it. We already went on this argument and looked for the proof, Shervin. It wasn't there. It wasn't in the pudding.
Hey, we got Romp saying Ben's defense is overrated. Joel's the best defender on the Sixers. Interesting.
I've thought that as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've thought that as well. I mean, Ben's good. Probably great. I don't think he's like a top 5 defender in the league though.
It's one of those things where he's like, 6'10", but he moves like a point guard and has athleticism and length, and so people just automatically assume he's really good at defense and can lock anyone down, and he does sometimes. But yeah, it's. I said this last night, and I'll say it again for everyone else. I don't believe that perimeter defense is something that is as important as having your help defense and your rotations and the way you defend pick and rolls locked in is in the NBA. And it's near impossible for anyone, even Ben Simmons or Drew Holiday level, to guard someone one-on-one with no help and no good scheme around them and no good rim protection or help defense. So no matter whether you're talking about having the best perimeter defense in the league or not, I don't think it matters that much if your help side rotations are not crisp, if you don't get through screens cleanly, if you don't try to fight through them, you just auto switch no matter what happens, all those kind of things that we've seen the Blazers struggle with for years. And I feel like a lot of these players would look vastly different in a different system.
100%. The best perimeter defenders can't keep the best offensive players in front of them 100% of the time. If you have good help side defense and good rotations out, you're going to be able to mitigate the damage. Even if there's a little bit of damage or a lot of damage, you should be able to effectively mitigate the damage from having a good or a poor perimeter defender. That's why I've said in the past, like, defensive importance goes up. It's the lowest with point guard. It's the most important with center, right? Like, it goes up on a scale because your back line of defense is more important than your front line. You want a good front line of defense to mitigate, and to limit the amount of times guys are getting like straight line drives towards your rim protector. You don't want a guy like Nurkic getting in foul trouble consistently. But I mean, I don't know. I'd rather have an elite rim protector than an elite perimeter defender. So I agree with that. And I've said that numerous times. So, as far as Ben goes, though, on the perimeter, like, I don't know, man. Like, Dame shot poorly against him, and people were like, oh, Simmons locked him down. And I looked at the tape, and, like, Dame consistently got good looks against Ben Simmons and just had an off-shooting night when we played him. Like...
And two, I mean, we dominated them both times. One of them without Dame, but... I know Simmons didn't play in that game either, so it's hard to tell. But
we didn't have Dame, CJ, or Nurkic.
We've been
a different argument, but
we've been. I think the last few years, outside of Korkmaz, we've played Philly pretty tough.
Furkan freaking Korkmaz, man. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. And Sherman keeps turning this into, since we don't like Ben Simmons, that means we're settling for mediocrity and we'll never want the Blazers to ever get past the first round because they never get past the first round to CJ, and we're just
I don't even
we're just settling
with Sherman's again. We already took our win, Eric. We already took our win last night, man. I don't want to take another one. He can say what he wants. Anything left to cover?
No.
Anything left to talk about? So I'm going to turn on a fan, open up the window. It's hot in here.
Philadelphia choked. I mean, I don't know. They should not have lost that series. Yep. And, yeah, I don't know. I think the Bucks, I mean, they went from possibly losing in the second round and maybe firing their coach and rearranging some of their pieces to now they're likely going to be in the finals. That's crazy.
Yep. Trevor says, I'm telling you, Shervin sold his accounts to Danny Meringue. Oh, man. He got you, man. He got you. But, yeah, so. Anyway, we're going to wrap this up. As I said at the start of this stream, me and Eric don't have AC. I know Eric probably wants to turn his fan back on. I need to set up a fan in my window. We will be live. I will be live again tomorrow on the main channel. Eric, just want to confirm you cannot make that stream, correct?
Yeah, so it starts at 5:30. I will be on my way to Corvallis, and just for the record, I probably won't be able to just be monitoring my phone nonstop. So if you're interested in speaking with me once trades open, it might take me a little bit to respond because I'm not sure.
Don't rush trades. Last season we had people like rush trades at the start and then regretted it, and they were like, I just wanted to do something. Like, I know everybody's been like antsy since we got our teams like 8 days ago, but don't rush to make a trade, you know? Try and maximize the value you get back in each trade. There's like a long time to like sort things out, and that's the fun of it. And if you're in negotiations with somebody, you can leak that 2 teams are in negotiations to the trade block. I can tweet that out, and that might get another team trying to jump in and maybe offer more because they want a guy that might get traded. You know what I mean? You guys can have some gamesmanship with the Alien Wojnarowski Twitter account, with the trade block and all that type of stuff. So, yeah, there is some gamesmanship to being a GM. I want to see, like, who maybe tries to employ some of that in terms of just maybe leaking stuff and seeing how you know, things go from there. So it'll be fun. Looking forward to it.
And if you want a Philadelphia perspective before watching Tori's video tomorrow, check out Romp 2.0's video on Simmons trades, in which he does break down ACJ for Simmons trade.
Very well put together. He puts together his videos pretty well. So, yeah, and then I'll have mine tomorrow with good old face cam. We don't do the highlights here, sadly. But anyway, that's gonna wrap up the stream. I will see you guys tomorrow. That's when the mock off season will start. We'll have the draft lottery tomorrow. Should be a pretty eventful day. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully you are as well. Hopefully you have a good rest of your night. If you're like me and Eric and don't have AC, good luck to you. I gotta air this place out, so I'm gonna hop off. I will catch you tomorrow. Video tomorrow, and then the action starts. So good luck in Corvallis, Eric. I will see you guys later. As always, peace out. Go Blazers.